After school, as they walk home, Yasuha twirls and dances with pure joy, her happiness overflowing from spending the day with Yuchi. Yuchi, already bewildered by her endless excitement, watches her in confusion. Suddenly, she spins around and catches him staring, leaving him even more flustered. With a playful sparkle in her eyes, Yasuha suddenly gushes about how cute Yuchi is. His face flushes deep red, trying to deny it, but Yasuha, cheeks glowing, firmly grabs the edge of his coat and sincerely insists that, to her, he's the cutest person in the entire world. As they say their goodbyes, Yasuha waves with a bright, cheerful smile. Yuchi slowly pushes open the main door of his house, his face still shadowed by sadness. But the moment he steps inside, he freezes. His mother is there, her usual cold and eerie presence softened just a little by a faint, almost forced smile. In an unsettlingly calm tone, his mother tells Yuchi she bought his favorite dinner, something he picked herself. But as she grumbles about how hard it was to make the trip to the supermarket alone, Yuchi quickly apologizes, still trying to make sense of her unusual behavior. As he heads to his room, his mind spins with confusion. His mother has never acted like this before, so why now? That morning, before he left for school, she had found a half-burned photograph. All the faces in the picture were scorched away, except for Yuchi's, which stared back with a dark, intense expression. She clenched her fists in frustration, overwhelmed by the fear that he was the only one left, and the terrifying thought that he might one day abandon her. Now, sitting at the dinner table, Yuchi feels awkward and uneasy about his mother's sudden change in behavior. But the moment she calls his name, a cold shiver runs down his spine. With a piercing gaze, she calmly asks if he's struggling at school, if he's dealing with mental stress, anxiety, or anything troubling him. She assures him that if something is wrong, he will get the help he needs soon. For a split second, a flood of haunting memories rush through his mind. His classmates' cruel threats scratched into his desk, his mother's past terrifying outbursts, and the horrifying sight of her cutting her own hand right in front of him. But then, catching a glimpse of her unreadable expression, he realizes something. No matter how tough things are for him, they don't compare to his mother's own struggles. So, pushing down his feelings, he simply shakes his head and says he's fine. Thinking of Yasuha and her bright, cheerful smile, he shares how he spent his day with her, even without any particular reason. But the moment he mentions that just her presence makes everything better, his mother's face shifts to a sad, worried look. Later, in his room after studying, he lies on his bed feeling a spark of motivation, just because she exists. But as he closes his eyes, the hateful, suffocating thoughts creep back in, whispering that he's worthless, that he should just disappear. He tries to hold on to Yasuha's presence like a lifeline, but the dark thoughts keep flooding in, screaming at him to give up. Overwhelmed and desperate, he yells into the silence before burying himself under his blanket. Then his phone buzzes, a message from Yasuha saying she wants to call. With tears in his eyes, the MC immediately answers the call. Yasuha, smiling brightly, excitedly shares how thrilled she is to see him tomorrow, admitting she's too happy to fall asleep. Playfully, she asks him to keep talking until she drifts off, saying his voice helps her fall asleep faster. For the first time, Yuchi sings softly, feeling a bit more at ease as they casually chat. After a few minutes, he drifts off to sleep, his phone still resting nearby. Once Yasuha confirms he's asleep, she gently whispers, "Sweet dreams," and ends the call quietly, her voice barely a whisper as she confesses her love. Then, as she closes her eyes, darkness surrounds her. Then, in her dream, morning breaks and Yuchi appears. Her face brightens with hope, but suddenly, tears stream down as she desperately begs him not to leave. Yet, he keeps walking away, heading toward a twisted rope hanging from the ceiling. She screams for him to stop, but he doesn't hear her. In an instant, he loops the rope around his neck, and before she can reach him, he's suspended in the air, taking his own life. She jolts awake with a terrified scream, her body trembling violently as she gasps for breath, coughing and sobbing uncontrollably. Clutching her chest, she cries out apologies in pure panic. The next day, as they walk to school hand in hand, Yasuha excitedly chats about how she made an even tastier bento just for him. Her voice is full of joy as she squeezes Yuchi's hand, clearly proud of her efforts. Meanwhile, Yuchi walks quietly beside her, his eyes fixed on her blushing face. Her overly affectionate nature, always touching, hugging, and holding his hand, leaves him flustered, yet strangely comforted. It reminds him of their childhood, how Yasuha was always the same, constantly clinging to him with that same energy and warmth. As they near the park where they used to play as kids, Yasuha suddenly bursts ahead, full of excitement. But just as she reaches the entrance, she stumbles over something, losing her balance. Just as she's about to fall, Yuchi instinctively reaches out and catches her from behind, steadying her. For a brief moment, Yasuha freezes. Her expression flickers unpredictably, shifting from a deep blush to something almost like frustration. Noticing the sudden change, Yuchi quickly pulls back and apologizes for the unexpected hug, a hint of panic in his voice. But with teary eyes, Yasuha surprises him by expressing happiness instead. She softly admits that no one had ever hugged her before. Her heart races from the unexpected embrace, and she struggles to steady her emotions, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. Watching her flustered reaction, Yuchi can't help but smile, just a little, for the first time. As he apologizes again, Yasuha responds with a bright, genuine smile and thanks him. Then, as if moved by pure emotion, she hugs him back in return. Later, as they walk through the park holding hands and laughing, Yuchi finds himself wishing, deep down, that moments like this could last forever. The next morning, Yuchi wakes to the gentle chirping of birds, a refreshing lightness in his chest, something he's never quite felt before. Just then, his phone buzzes with a message from Yasuha. She's excitedly asking if they can walk to school together. The thought alone brings a smile to his face, filling him with a quiet, unexpected happiness. Jumping out of bed, Yuchi rushes to his window and pulls the curtains open with excitement, only to freeze in surprise. Yasuha is already outside, fully dressed and waiting for him. But something isn't right. Her usual bright smile is missing. Instead, her face is clouded with sadness and worry. A wave of concern immediately washes over him. Wasting no time, Yuchi quickly gets ready, grabs his bag, and bolts out the door. The moment he steps outside, Yasuha greets him with a bright, excited smile, her face now glowing with a warmth that lifts the air. Without a second thought, she throws her arms around him in a tight, affectionate hug. Then, with a playful grin, she proudly shows off the breakfast she made just for him, cheerfully insisting he eat it on the way to school. Though grateful, Yuchi can't shake the feeling that something's off. Gently, he asks, "Are you okay?" For a brief moment, Yasuha's smile falters, her face tightening ever so slightly. But just as quickly, she plasters on her usual cheerful expression, brushing off his concern with a light laugh. She reassures him, almost a little too quickly, that making breakfast for him was no trouble at all. Looking at Yasuha's excited face, Yuchi hesitates for a moment. Maybe he just imagined that flicker of sadness from earlier. Pushing the thought aside, he smiles and continues walking beside her, their conversation light as they make their way to the train station. But the moment Yuchi steps onto the platform, something changes. His expression stiffens, his once relaxed features now drawn tight with fear. His hands clench instinctively, as if bracing for something only he can feel. His eyes sweep across the area, and relief floods in when he realizes the usual troublemaker isn't around. Only his two subordinates remain, both glued to their phones. As Yuchi's tension slowly fades, Yasuha watches him with a gentle smile, her cheeks tinged with a soft blush. After getting off the train, they walk happily toward school. Suddenly, an unexpected voice calls out to them. Startled, they turn to see a boy approaching with a bright smile, greeting them enthusiastically. Yuchi hesitates, clearly confused by the sudden attention. Yasuha's reaction is even stronger. Her grip tightens on her bag strap, clearly holding back irritation. The boy, completely unaware, keeps greeting them with overwhelming excitement. Then, blushing slightly, he turns to Yasuha and says he hasn't seen her since elementary school. Instead of reacting harshly, Yasuha simply laughs and casually asks him to introduce himself, as if she doesn't recognize him at all. A brief flicker of disappointment crosses the boy's face, and with a small, dejected sigh, he introduces himself as Yamato, her good friend from elementary school. Upon hearing Yamato's name, Yasuha's expression shifts for a moment, as if she's only just recognizing him. Then, putting on forced enthusiasm, she suggests they all go to school together, calling him a true friend. But behind that smile, she's quietly wrestling with her frustration. Yamato, still grinning, says how happy he is for Yuchi, mentioning how great it is that his childhood friend has transferred here. But the moment he turns his back, his expression briefly changes, like he's hiding something behind that smile. Then, turning back to Yuchi, Yamato feigns concern, mentioning how Uchi was always bullied. With a fake look of regret, he sighs and excuses himself, claiming his responsibilities as a student council member kept him too busy to help. Caught off guard by the sudden guilt trip, Uchi hesitates. Seeing his friend look ashamed, he quickly waves it off with an innocent smile, sincerely thanking Yamato for at least thinking of him. Still playing his part, Yamato awkwardly waves his hand in the air, clearly embarrassed. As he reaches out to playfully pat Uchi's shoulder to emphasize his sincerity, Yatsuha swiftly steps in with a cold glare, grabbing his wrist and stopping him before he can touch him. Noticing the shocked looks on both boys' faces, Yatsu quickly forces a smile and suddenly acts surprised, exclaiming that there was a bug on Yamato's hand, and she was just trying to brush it off. Then, she immediately apologizes for the misunderstanding, easing the tension. Still stunned by Yatsuha's sudden touch, Yuchi just smiles softly, unsure how to respond. Yamato quickly waves him off with fake enthusiasm, saying the student council members are waiting for him. Yatsuha, still forcing a cheerful front, nods in agreement. As Yamato walks away, Yuchi looks at her with concern, but she simply gives him a cute smile, reassuring him that she's okay. Meanwhile, on the other side of the school, Yamato rushes inside, visibly shaken by the emotions stirring within him. Holding Yatsuha's hand tightly, his heart pounding, he locks himself inside a restroom stall. Tears stream down his face as he clutches the same hand she had touched, pressing it to his lips and whispering her name with wild, desperate affection. As Yamato glances at his phone wallpaper, a childhood photo of Yatsuha, his face flushes red, overwhelmed by a flood of emotion. With a passionate kick against the wall, he hypes himself up, convinced that fate has always tied Yatsuha to him. Ever since their elementary school days, when she transferred away, he clung to the belief they'd reunite. And now, seeing her again, he takes her return as a sign, misreading it completely, as if she came back to this place just for him. Admiring her beauty, Yamato deludes himself into thinking that Yatsuha's body matured just for him. Lost in the memory of her warmth when she touched his hand, he shivers with longing. Wrapping his arms tightly around himself, a desperate, twisted desire to embrace her completely begins to consume him. But then, remembering how Yatsuha had smiled while holding Uchi's hand, Yamato's expression darkens. His mind flashes back to their childhood, those moments when, whether by accident or not, Yatsuha always seemed to end up playing with Uchi instead of him. The frustration that once simmered now bubbles to the surface. He clenches his fists, recalling how even back then, he couldn't stand Yuchi's presence. A memory resurfaces. He once crushed a bug beneath a stone, and in that moment, he wished Uchi would vanish just as easily, erased from Yatsuha's life forever. Yet even with all those dark thoughts, Yuchi had always looked back at Yamato with a bright, genuine smile, inviting him to play, never once holding anything against him. But even during those innocent games, all Yamato could think about was how to get rid of him. His mind spirals deeper into those twisted memories, drifting to their middle school days. Back then, when Yamato was being bullied, it wasn't a teacher or another classmate who stepped in. It was Yuchi. Without hesitation, he had stood up to the bullies, confronting them seriously, despite the risk. But instead of backing down, the bullies turned on Yuchi. They beat him, mocked him, and made him their next target. All because he tried to protect Yamato. The bullying grew so vicious, it nearly drove Yuchi to the brink of ending his own life. But while Yuchi was drowning in that darkness, Yamato felt no sympathy, only a twisted thrill. He wanted Yuchi to break, to fall apart, to vanish from Yatsuha's life forever. But no matter how much torment Yuchi went through, he never gave up. He clung to life with quiet determination, reading motivational quotes, pushing himself forward, refusing to let the pain define him. This only fueled Yamato's rage even more. Determined to finally break Yuchi, he crafted a more insidious plan. He was the one who wrote those cruel, demoralizing messages on Yuchi's desk, each one designed to crush his spirit and drown him in despair. But when new students began to notice the bullying and started showing sympathy toward Yuchi, Yamato didn't hesitate. He quickly created a fake account using Yuchi's name, twisting the narrative to manipulate and mislead everyone, making it look like Yuchi was the one causing trouble all along. Yamato was also the one who stuffed Yuchi's locker full of garbage. Another cruel move to crush his spirit. Each time Yuchi's anxiety deepened and his misery grew, Yamato watched with sadistic satisfaction. The more broken Yuchi looked, the more triumphant Yamato felt. Because before Yatsuha returned, he had one twisted goal: to make sure Yuchi would never live to see that day. Yamato's fist clenches tight, his knuckles turning white as he slams it against the bathroom stall door. His breathing is erratic, anger doing a tap dance in his head. The memories of Yuchi spending time with Yatsuha replay like an unwanted tattoo, digging deeper into his frustration. His fingers shake as he recalls every little moment. How she smiled at Yuchi, how naturally she held his hand. It eats away at him. Forcing himself to calm down, Yamato wipes the sweat from his face and steps out of the restroom. His sudden return catches the student council members off guard. They've clearly been wondering where he disappeared to. They quickly gather around him, concern written all over their faces, asking why he missed the meeting. With a composed look, Yamato brushes off their worries, smoothly fabricating an excuse to protect the polished image he's always maintained. As Yamato chats with the student council, his attention drifts, his eyes locking onto Yatsuha and Yuchi as they approach from a distance. His gaze lingers on their hands, tightly clasped together. For a split second, irritation flickers across his face. But just as quickly, he smothers it beneath a practiced smile. With forced cheer, he greets them, his voice friendly, his expression perfectly controlled. As Yatsuha and Yuchi walk past, his friends exchange amused whispers, commenting on how perfect they look together. Yamato's smile stiffens, his fingers curling slightly, as that familiar frustration wells up inside him again. Meanwhile, Yatsuha senses his gaze and instinctively tightens her grip on her bag. But she quickly forces a calm, composed expression. She's not here to let emotions get the better of her. She has a goal, and nothing will distract her from it now. Inside the classroom, Yatsuha blushes as she gently places her hands on the table, a hint of disappointment in her eyes. Uchi's books are perfectly fine. She had secretly hoped they'd be ruined, just so she'd have another excuse to share hers. Uchi chuckles at her flustered expression, clearly amused, while cold, jealous stares shoot their way from across the room. Out of nowhere, Yatsuha throws her arms around him. But almost instantly, she pulls back, worried she might be distracting him. Uchi gently reassures her, and without hesitation, she melts into his embrace once more. With a soft, heartfelt voice, she finally whispers her love to him. But then, her eyes land on something cruel, vile insults scratched into Uchi's desk. Words like hypocrite, and worse. The moment shifts. Her warmth fades into a stunned silence as the weight of the harassment suddenly confronts her. Yatsuha's gaze sharpens. Without saying a word, she quietly rises from her seat, masking her emotions behind a calm face. "I forgot a book," she murmurs, using the excuse to slip away from the tense atmosphere. As she walks out, a student intercepts her, handing over a student council report meant for Yamato. Perfect timing. Moments later, she approaches Yamato with a feigned look of surprise. "You're really on the student council?" she asks, her voice light and curious. Her eyes trail over the neatly written report in her hands. "Wow, your handwriting is so clean," she adds, smiling softly. Though behind her words, something more calculating lingers. Yamato, slightly flustered but proud, nods and admits, "Yeah, I wrote that myself." But before he can bask in her compliment, Yatsuha casually points to something on the report. "You misspelled hypocrite, just like the one written on Yuchi's desk." The words hit him like a slap. For a split second, Yamato freezes, his confident facade cracking, before quickly forcing a laugh, brushing it off as a weird coincidence. Without saying another word, Yatsuha hands him the file. Her fingers tighten into fists by her sides, her heart burning with quiet fury. She's made up her mind. Whoever did this to Yuchi doesn't deserve forgiveness. Yamato, on the other hand, keeps his face smooth, a fake smile stretched across his lips. But inside, he's spiraling. He mistakes her sharp eye for something else entirely. "She recognized my handwriting. She understands me. Maybe we're meant to be." The twisted idea makes his breath hitch and sends a shiver of excitement crawling down his spine. Without warning, Yamato shoots up from his seat and grabs Yatsuha's arm. She stiffens immediately, her eyes narrowing with a flash of frustration. In his twisted mind, he's convinced her earlier excuse about the bump was a lie. She meant to touch him. She wanted to, but Yatsuha holds back her anger. With calm precision, she pries his hand off and takes a step back. A polite smile tugs at her lips, cold, composed, unreadable. "I'm just glad you weren't the one who wrote on Yuchi's desk," she says smoothly, her tone light but cutting. Then, without waiting for a response, she turns and walks away. As she gets further, that smile vanishes. Her jaw clenches, eyes darken, and beneath her calm exterior, emotions swirl like a storm she's barely holding back. Yatsuha returns to Uchi's side, slipping into the seat next to him with a bright, effortless smile. "Found my book? It was right there on my desk," she says casually, as if nothing's happened. The lecture bell rings. She lowers her head, shielding herself behind the open pages of her book. To anyone watching, she looks calm and focused. But inside, her thoughts are in turmoil. Her mind isn't on the lesson. It's back with Yamato. Disappointment gnaws at her, frustration quietly building. Despite everything, she still doesn't know how to force him to admit the truth. And that helplessness clings to her like a shadow she can't shake. As the bell signals the start of PE class, Uchi lingers outside the boys' changing room, his heart sinking. He feels strangely weak, a bit lost, disappointed that he won't get to be with Yatsuha for a while. But then, out of nowhere, she rushes up to him and wraps her arms around him in a tight, unexpected hug. The crowd around them goes silent, eyes wide in surprise. Sniffling softly, Yatsuha clings to him like they're about to be separated for days instead of just one class period. The brief moment apart is already too much for her heart to bear. As the MC gently pulls Yatsuha away so he can head into the changing room, she looks up at him, her cheeks flushed, eyes glistening with unshed tears. In that soft, vulnerable gaze, she speaks from the heart. Even if the world vanished, she whispers, her love for him would never fade. Yuchi freezes for a moment, caught off guard. Her words hit deeper than anything he expected. Her quiet devotion stirs something inside him, a mix of surprise and something warmer, something real. Before the MC can even respond, Yatsuha notices a few classmates stepping into the boys' changing room. With one last emotional glance and a small wave, she gently leads him forward, her heart clearly overwhelmed. Now alone, Yuchi steps inside, his mood sinking. The gloomy sky outside seems to echo the weight pressing on his shoulders. As he quietly changes clothes, Yamato secretly watches him from the corner of his eye. He glances down at his phone, smirking at messages that praise his manipulative schemes. Putting on a mask of fake friendliness, Yamato suddenly calls out, greeting Yuchi with an overly cheerful tone, his smile hiding the twisted satisfaction beneath. Yuchi, though caught off guard, sincerely thanks Yamato for stopping by, especially knowing the risk of Yamato's friends disapproving of their interaction. But his gratitude slowly shifts to confusion when Yamato, wearing his usual friendly mask, casually brings up Yatsuha's name and hints at her being alone. Noticing the concern flicker across Yuchi's face, Yamato presses further, his tone sympathetic but calculated. He subtly plants seeds of doubt, suggesting that because Yatsuha chose to sit with Yuchi on her very first day, others now view her as strange, just like him. Despite her beauty, Yamato implies, people are beginning to isolate her. His words sting, cloaked in concern but dripping with manipulation, meant to make Yuchi question everything. Yamato's twisted words dig even deeper into Yuchi's already fragile mind. Known for overthinking, the MC begins to spiral as Yamato calmly continues his manipulative act, highlighting how Yatsuha is now attending physical education completely alone. Each carefully chosen word lands like a strike, feeding Yuchi's growing anxiety. His heart pounds, riddled with guilt and uncertainty. Feigning genuine concern, Yamato folds his hands and puts on a mask of sincerity. With a gentle tone, he insists that he only wants what's best for Yatsuha. Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, he urges Yuchi to keep his distance, for her sake. It's a chilling performance of false friendship, and Yuchi, overwhelmed and unsure, doesn't even realize he's being pushed to the edge. Uchi stays quiet, his face clouded with the storm of emotions brewing inside him. Meanwhile, down the corridor, Yatsu stands alone in her uniform, awkward and out of place, like a fish stranded without water. Just then, a group of girls bursts out of the changing room, their voices bubbling with excitement as they gush over Satsuki's suave, dashing presence. But their chatter abruptly cuts off when their eyes land on Yatsu, standing all by herself, isolated and unnoticed. The sudden silence speaks volumes, under the gloomy sky hanging over the kingdom, as the MCs face the harsh realities of loneliness and social divide. While most of the girls choose to act cool and simply ignore Yatsu, Satsuki, true to her kind-hearted nature, steps forward with genuine concern. She offers Yasuha a spare set of gym clothes, a simple yet meaningful gesture. Yasuha's face lights up with a grateful, beaming smile as she eagerly accepts the offer. Under the gloomy sky that looms over the kingdom, this small act of kindness stands out, a rare spark of warmth in a world shadowed by tension and loneliness. But just as quickly, Yasuha admits she's actually skipping J class because she's not feeling well. Ever composed and kind, Satsuki offers to escort her to the nurse's office if she needs help. Watching their exchange, Satsuki's friends can't help but admire her calm and thoughtful nature once again. As Satsuki rejoins her group, her friends voice their surprise, wondering why she'd approach Yasuha, given her close ties to Uchi and Yasuha's unusual reputation in the kingdom. Under the gloomy sky, these subtle moments reveal the complex web of relationships in this land, where kindness can shine even in the most unexpected places. However, Satsuki remains unfazed, calmly explaining that she was just helping a new transfer student, unbothered by what others might think. Hearing her straightforward perspective, her group can't help but admire her composed strength and independent spirit once again. Under the gloomy sky of this kingdom, Satsuki's quiet confidence stands out, a reminder that true kindness doesn't need approval to shine. After making sure all the girls are distracted playing, Yatsuha's expression hardens. With calculated calm, she purposely drops her wallet in the gym, then slips away to the storage room. Clutching a pair of pliers, she silently sets to work on the lock, each movement deliberate, her eyes burning with quiet determination beneath the gloomy sky of the kingdom. No typhoon or poison could shake her resolve as she moves forward with her secret plan, every second charged with tension and intent. After gym class, she throws her arms around him in a heartfelt hug, her emotions pouring out. Even though she loves the class, she confesses how hard it's been not seeing him. Her eyes light up as she excitedly pulls out her lunchbox and invites him to eat together. However, he looks distant and troubled, weighed down by the guilt that Yamato planted in his mind. When he awkwardly suggests that they eat separately, she is caught off guard, clearly shaken by his tense and gloomy mood. Trying to stay cheerful, she gently reminds him that she made the meal especially for him, despite how much effort it took. With an innocent smile, she tells him she simply wants to eat together. Reluctantly, he agrees, But as they sit and eat, he can't shake off the guilt. Yamado's words echo in his mind, that she might end up all alone because of him. Even though she's full of excitement and proudly shows off her delicious octopus dish, he barely touches his food. His mind is clouded with dark thoughts, drowning in fear that she might suffer just by being with him. The guilt runs so deep, he starts to consider ending his own life once again. Sensing something is wrong from his distant gaze and blank expression, she quickly acts. With a bright smile, she shows him a group of cute little octopus figures and playfully says, "You must be feeling lonely and sad. Just like these guys. Sticking together because they don't want to lose anyone." Seeing his shocked expression, almost like she had just read his mind, she suddenly jumps to her feet, full of energy, and loudly promises that she'll help him make tons of friends. With a cheerful smile, she explains that, as a transfer student, she doesn't have many friends either, but she's confident she'll make them soon. And without hesitation, she declares that he will be one of them. When she suggests that he should try making some friends too, he instantly refuses, his face tense and anxious. But she stays calm and cheerful, gently reassuring him that everything will be all right. With a bright smile, she tells him to focus on eating first, worrying about friends can come later. Finally, he takes a bite, and the moment he genuinely enjoys the delicious taste, she lights up, bursting with excitement and pure happiness, shouting with joy. While watching Yatsuha and Yuchi together, Satsuki's group becomes increasingly curious about what the two might be talking about. But Satsuki herself stays completely focused on her phone, calmly eating her lunch without a care. Her group is stunned by how uninterested she seems in the supposed couple, as if their interaction means absolutely nothing to her. Every girl around starts admiring Satsuki's cool and composed personality, praising how effortlessly she keeps her distance from drama. One of them even recalls a moment when Satsuki quietly helped carry half of her documents. An unexpected act of kindness that only deepens their respect for her calm yet surprisingly thoughtful nature. Despite all the admiration around her, Satsuki remains completely unfazed. Her calm, elegant, and mysterious presence only makes her seem even more impressive in their eyes. Just then, her phone buzzes with a notification. Without missing a beat, Satsuki suddenly stands up and heads straight for the door, casually explaining, "My friend's calling me," as she walks away. As Satsuki walks away, her group exchanges curious glances, quietly wondering who this mysterious friend might be. Meanwhile, just moments after Satsuki exits, Yatsuha suddenly excuses herself from Yuchi, saying she forgot something in the gym room. Without waiting for a reply, she quickly turns and walks off. On the other side, the moment Satsuki steps outside, she quickly scans her surroundings with sharp focus, then suddenly breaks into a run, gripping her phone tightly. She's clearly looking for a secluded spot, somewhere she can be completely alone. Whatever message she just received seems suspicious, something she definitely doesn't want her friends to find out about. Finally, as Satsuki enters the storage room, she immediately locks the door behind her, but then freezes in shock when she sees the broken lock. A flicker of unease crosses her face, but without wasting a second, she pushes her worries aside. Instead of closing the door fully, she quickly moves toward a hidden spot inside the room. Her breath comes uneven as she hurriedly settles down, adjusting her phone, readying herself for whatever urgent matter is about to unfold. The moment the stream begins, Satsuki's entire demeanor changes. Her usual calm and composed aura fades, revealing a side of her rarely seen by others. Her eyes sparkle with excitement, cheeks flushed as she clasps her phone tightly, watching Teenum appear on the screen. His charming, elegant presence fills the stream, and with every word he speaks, her heart flutters. Tears well up in her eyes, overwhelmed by emotion as she listens to his smooth, captivating voice. When Teenum mentions how streaming on weekends might be tough for students because of their busy schedules, Satsuki instantly brushes off his concern. Her voice brimming with unshakable excitement, she talks loudly to herself, gushing over him like a love-struck schoolgirl, completely oblivious to her surroundings. In that moment of pure admiration, she doesn't notice the slow creak of the storage room door behind her. Yatsuha, with a cold and calculating expression, silently peeks inside, her sharp eyes locked onto Satsuki, taking in every subtle movement. Satsuki, completely captivated, watched the streamer with unwavering focus, lost in his charm and unaware she was being watched. Yua stood nearby, silently observing her. Her expression was unreadable, but a flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes. She had been trailing Satsuki this whole time, only to find her completely entranced by a streamer. A flicker of suspicion creeps in. Satsuki suddenly senses something's off. She spins around and lets out a startled yelp, nearly dropping her phone. Scrambling for words, she's caught off guard. Standing there is Yua, calm and composed, holding up a wallet. With a casual tone, Yua offers an innocent excuse. She says she forgot something and peeked inside after hearing a noise. She lets out a startled scream, spinning around with wide, panicked eyes. Still shaken, she stammers out a string of confused, jumbled questions. Then suddenly snaps, loudly demanding Yua's reason for being there. But Yua stays completely unfazed. With an innocent smile, she casually holds up her wallet and explains. She had simply forgotten it, and when she came back to retrieve it, she overheard something that sparked her curiosity. Realizing what's happening, Satsuki freezes. Her face twists with emotion as tears begin to well up. Overwhelmed and helpless, she stands there, visibly shaken by the fear of being exposed. Yua calmly steps closer and gently pats her back, offering quiet reassurance with a soft smile. Then, with a playful shift in tone, Yua tilts her head and teasingly asks, "So, why are you watching your favorite show in secret?" Satsuki exhales slowly, hesitant, but finally chooses to open up. With a flushed face, she admits, she's deeply obsessed with anime and idols. It's a passion she's kept hidden for a long time. She's not ashamed of loving them, but she's terrified her friends, who admire her calm and collected image, would be disappointed if they knew the truth. The thought of shattering their expectations weighs heavily on Satsuki. It makes her even more anxious than just being called an anime fan. Revealing this hidden side of herself feels like betraying the image her friends believe in, and that fear keeps her trapped in silence. But then, Yua gently takes Satsuki's hands, her calm presence radiating quiet reassurance. With Yua's quiet support, Satsuki finally lets the words spill from her heart. She admits that if she reveals her love for idols, she's scared her friends will be disappointed. But keeping it hidden makes her feel like a fraud. Torn between staying loyal to the image they admire and embracing what truly makes her happy, Satsuki begins to resent herself for always putting others first and burying her passion. Without a moment's hesitation, Yua pulls Satsuki into a comforting hug. That warmth, that quiet acceptance, shatters the last of Satsuki's restraint. Finally feeling safe, she buries her face in Yua's shoulder, tears falling freely as she releases all the tangled, exhausting emotions she's carried alone for so long. Yua gently whispers, assuring Satsuki that she truly understands her fears. Completely. Just as Satsuki pulls away, a flicker of curiosity sparks in her eyes. Yua, her cheeks slightly flushed, admits with a shy smile that she also has an ASI. The tension in Satsuki begins to ease, her expression softening with interest. But then, in a cheerful tone, Yua reveals her love interest is Yuchi. And just like that, Satsuki freezes. Satsuki hesitates as Yua brings up Yui's bullying, gently asking how she feels about how others see her for spending time with him. For a brief moment, sadness flickers in Satsuki's eyes. She longs for connection, for real companionship. But then, in a sudden shift, her expression sharpens. A burst of determination rises within her, and her gaze hardens with unwavering resolve. Satsuki boldly declares that she doesn't care about the judgmental stares, or even losing friends. What truly matters is staying by Yuchi's side, because he is her savior. Yua blinks, momentarily stunned, caught between admiration and confusion. Noticing Satsuki's puzzled expression, Yua takes a breath and decides to share a secret of her own. In a quiet voice, she reveals that she was an orphan, raised without a family, spending most of her school life alone and depressed. One day, at her lowest, she sat alone in a park, drowning in loneliness, until Yuchi showed up, holding a football, and simply asked, "Wanna play?" That single moment changed everything. Because of Yuchi, she found friendship, excitement, and a reason to smile again. To Yua, he's nothing less than a hero. With renewed determination, she declares that no matter what, she'll stay by Yuchi's side. No matter what others think, no matter the judgment, their opinions don't matter. Satsuki is deeply moved by Yua's heartfelt confession. Inspired by her unwavering resolve, she makes a quiet decision. She'll stay true to her love for Nichichan, no matter what her friends might think. In that moment, an unspoken bond forms between them. With a warm smile, Satsuki finally reaches out her hand toward Yua. Even though their crushes are different, their struggles are the same. With a spark of newfound excitement, Satsuki smiles brightly and formally introduces herself. Yua, just as thrilled, beams with joy. For the first time, they both feel truly seen and understood. Meanwhile, back in the lunchroom, Yuchi sits alone, lost in thought, until suddenly his eyes widen in shock. There they are, Satsuki and Yua, walking side by side, laughing and chatting like they've been friends forever. The entire room falls into stunned silence, especially Satsuki's friend group, frozen in disbelief. As Satsuki approaches her table, she casually announces, "Yua's my friend." Her group is stunned, speechless. But the real shock comes next. Without a hint of hesitation, Satsuki invites Yua to join them for lunch. When Yua subtly glances in Yuchi's direction, uncertain, Satsuki just smiles warmly and says, Go ahead. Enjoy your meal. Without a second thought, Yua practically skips over to Yuchi and throws her arms around him in a warm, heartfelt hug. Satsuki stands frozen, speechless, watching the scene unfold. Seeing the pure joy in Yuchi's eyes, something clicks. He's not just some outcast. He's the one who once pulled Yua out of her darkest moments, her savior.